Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you what I just received in the mail. Alright. We're doing well. Jetson Orin Nano SUPER. The latest development from NVIDIA, especially for AI. What we're going to do is unbox it. We're going to install the SDK, follow the documentation, and try to run it on there. Deep. See that, Owen? The new LM that's shaking things up, shaking OpenAI and shaking Meta. And what's happening with the stock market? So, a video lost 16% just yesterday. And so, we're going to see if we can run one of Erwin's versions directly on this tiny little computer. Alright. Specially designed by NVIDIA for AI. So what's in the box? We have the board itself. So to compare, there you go. This is the previous generation. Jetson Nano, okay. So this is the Jetson Orin. So the Orin is a bit bigger. We can see that there is active cooling directly integrated. But hey, roughly speaking, we are still pretty much on the same size of device. One of the differences is that it has USB-C. It's, and I hope we can power it via USB-C in the box, at least. What comes with it is a regular charger. So, we're not going to look for trouble. Let's get started. By plugging in the charger that comes with it, we're going to install the SDK. Here we go. There you go. And what happens when we plug it in? I imagine that as soon as we plug it in, it turns on. And so as soon as we plug it in, hop, a little LED. The fan turns on and starts spinning. And we're off. There you go. So on top for the display, we have a display port. And so what I'm going to do is try to show the connections that we have on it. Now the question is going to be, well, installing the SDK. You'll notice that underneath we have two ports that look like two M2 ports. To install hard drives, we have a Wi-Fi antenna. In addition to the RJ45 port, I have 45 and if I'm not mistaken, there's still a slot. Micro SD. So we can still run it from a micro SD card. We will look at the documentation and we will see how install this. Jetpack SDK, then a priori it is the same as what we had on the previous version. Jetson Orin Nano Developer Kit, currently running Jetpack 6 for any Jetson Orin Developer Kit. Fresh, unboxed unit, or an existing unit running Jetpack 5. Fresh unboxed unit. That looks like me, doesn't it? So, initial setup. Check your inventory. So, you need an SD card. Or an NVMe. And unless I'm mistaken, I don't have an NVMe right here, right now. So, it's going to be an SD card. Hop. Small SD card. 16 GB or more. 64 GB or more. Let's go. It's done. It's flashed. The SD card is available. So we're going to eject it and then we're going to put it in directly into the board and we're going to see what happens. We eject and Here we go. That's it. I finally managed to install the Jetson Awesome. And indeed, there were a few intermediate steps that shouldn't be forgotten. So, it's a developer kit, of course. Of course, you need to update the firmware because it just came out, but the firmware isn't up to date. Anyway, the NVIDIA documentation is well done. There's an initial firmware update that needs to be done using a later UF version of Jetpack. The OS is actually based on Ubuntu from NVIDIA. You need to do this if your firmware is below version 36. And we can see it here. It is well documented in the BIOS when we mark not specified. It is that the firmware isn't up to date. So for that, you simply need to download an older Jetpack image. Then you need to follow the entire installation process. So download the image, flash the image, complete the OS installation, and at the end, after a few minutes, you'll get this little pop-up that tells you it's ready. There's a date that's ready to install. You restart and you'll see this screen that shows you the progress bar. And there we think it's over, but it's not over at all. It is still necessary. Then, once the date is finished, on boot, you check the version that is installed, which should normally be 35.5.0. Once that's done, we're going to install a package that will allow us to update the QSPI, so I don't know if it's the board or if it's the module itself, but in any case, you need to do an update again. So once the package is installed, you just need to restart. La 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 the board, and there you'll see pretty much the same screen as here with an update that takes a few minutes. And finally, once that's done, once those two updates are finished, you download Jetpack 6.2, you flash the SD card again, you follow the complete installation of Ubuntu again, which doesn't take very long. And in the end, you normally get a working version of your Jetson Nano, where you can directly SSH and connect. And so here, there's one last step. Who is again a post in the room? Notification to say, there's still a firmware to update. So you need to restart again. And so that's what I'm going to do now. And we'll see each other right after. All right. After one last reboot, we're going to check that everything is in order. We can connect via SSH. And now we have a little command to run to check. We're on the right version. We're going to run the same command that they recommended right from the start, 36. Fatto 3. That's exactly what we wanted. It would have only taken 3 or 4 reboots. Then, to make sure we're taking advantage of super mode, we're going to delete the file that's there. And we're going to reboot once again. And once we've rebooted, normally we'll have access to Super on Maxi mode. And the 25 watts. And so there we will have unlocked all the potential of the Jetson Nano Orin Super. So that's good. I checked directly in the interface, and I have that. The 25 watts, the MaxSense Supermat. And so we can finally start playing, and we're going to follow their first tutorial with Ollama before 1. The little ones. The small commands used to update and make sure everything is in order. There you go. Everything is fine. And so now we are going to install at the Ollama. So at the Ollama, a server compatible with OpenAir to use open models. So here we can see that it's installing the version Weapon 64. Since the Jetson board is an ARM64, it's downloading. Right now I'm connected via Ethernet, so it's going pretty fast. I don't know who's at Global, but since we're going to have to download different models afterwards to test, especially R1N, different sizes, it's better to be connected via cable. So here we're installing Ollama. Natively, we can also install it via Docker, instead of just installing Docker. I'm going to run it actively right away with Ollama run as soon as it's available. So apparently there's a special component for Jetpack 6, surely to be able to access the GPU. And we're good to start with Ollama run using Ollama 3.2. 3B, 3 billion parameters. 2 giga. Here we go. Is it going to run in the background? Or is it going to be directly terminal? That's what we're going to see right away. And the Docker version has a web UI. Yeah, we can make it simpler than that. So let's go to the Ollama website and follow the documentation from Ollama. So these are the different models. And on GitHub, you have examples of requests that you can send directly to Ollama. If I'm not mistaken, up. A leftover and chirps. There you go. Why is the sky blue? Very good question indeed. There. It directly returns the model to us so we can talk to it. Why is the sky is blue? And there we realize that it responds super quickly. It's super responsive. There's really no problem. It's coming out of the token. The box 3.23 billion. It works without any problem. How do we exit the prompt? Alright. We're going to run it in background task in Docker. The device will follow the doc. So, hop. He took everything. Is 2024 12.12 3.3. I'm surprised there's no newer version, like way newer. Since if we look at Ollama, I think there are versions newer. So 0.57, and now it's offering 0.51. That's too bad. So apparently that's the version we have that's compatible. Maybe with Jetson Nano then. We're going to use this one. You'll notice that this isn't the official Ollama container. It's in a different namespace. And what is that? What style? NV. Who is that? Like NVIDIA style? I don't know. But it looks like it's made specifically by NVIDIA. By the way, we can see the command that's being run and we can see what it's going to do. He's going to mount a socket. He will mount conf files. He's going to mount NVT, Grail. So there are definitely things related to the hardware. Sockets. The heart socket. And a data / that will surely be used for storage. our models. And here we see that it gives access to quite a few devices. So we're going to wait and see. Well, if we arrive to launch FitKing instead of launching FitKing, I'm actually going to try to launch Fit-r1 full. And 14 billion 9.1 giga. That's going to be a lot. Giga, 1 giga. How much RAM is available? On the board. Eight gigas and already trying to manage. So, we're not going to go crazy. Let's give it a try. Fit-r. And if we want to give it a try, DeepSeek-r1. Which model are we going to choose? So we have the 7 billion, the 7B. It's the version, by default it does 4.1 giga if it increases a bit. But times 4.7 giga, the 8 billion does 4.9 giga, and we're just, the 14 billion does 9 giga, a bit too much. So we're going to take the 8B. So for now, we're going to follow the documentation. And as soon as we've tested with Fit-r, we're going to test with DeepSeek-r1 right away. So, after a few minutes of searching, I finally found out how to launch Ollama directly with Docker. So, it's the command line that's suggested in the NVIDIA documentation. Just remove the --rm, and I switched it to have an interactive terminal and make sure I can type commands inside. And so, once I type that, I can directly run Ollama to be able to get the model I want. And so what I wanted to test was the Deep-r1 8B. So here we go, pooling manifest. And now it's downloading at 100 megabytes per second. We shouldn't forget that we're on an SD card. And so the speed is more than respectable. A 5 giga model that we're going to manage to pull in just 35 seconds. And as we said earlier, we won't be able to go higher than 8p because there isn't enough RAM. So now we're going to play some elevator music. So while the model is launching, we will open another terminal. We will resume the command that was suggested directly. Hop in the Ollama documentation. We're going to replace the name of the model. And from there, as soon as the model is fully downloaded, we'll check and launched. We'll have an answer. Fortunately, once a model is installed, it is available. This entire phase doesn't need to be redone. As long as we don't delete the model from the hard drive, we need to ensure the SD card so we put back DeepSeek-r1 8B. Why is that the sky blue? And it responds to us, it streams tokens.